Good day. My name is Len Marraccini. I'm a life member of the Peters Creek Historical Society, and I'm a docent here at the museum. I've spent 40 years involved in the mining industry, and today I'd like to give you an abbreviated tour of the William Bitts Jenkins Memorial Coal Mining Room. Just to briefly give you an idea about the name of the room, Mr. William Jenkins lived in Gastonville in Union Township. He was actively involved in the mining industry and he loved history. So over the course of his life, he collected a number of coal mining artifacts, and he designed and built a number of mining dioramas. And when Mr. Jenkins passed away, his family donated his entire mining collection to the Peters Creek Historical Society so that we could start a coal mining room in Mr. Jenkins' honor. One of the mining dioramas that Mr. Jenkins built, we have here on display, and it's basically of an underground coal mine, and the activity involves a mine rescue team in operation after a mine disaster, and they're going through the underground mine looking for survivors. I'm dressed up today to represent what a typical coal miner would look like in the late 1890s. Now, I'm a clean version as opposed to being covered with coal dust. Basically, in an underground coal mine, the temperature is 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. So the men typically wore some type of jacket to keep warm. They also had gloves that they wore with the fingertips cut out so that they could use various tools and equipment. I would like to concentrate on two things. One is the hat and mining lamp. Regarding the mining lamp, in the town of Monongahela, there was an immigrant German family whose last name was Anton, and three brothers each developed a factory where they made these little mining lamps. These look like little teapots. They were filled with a jelly-like substance, and what the miners would do, they would fill the lamp with this material. They would then hold their hands around the lamp. The heat from their hands converted the jelly into a liquid. It would go up the wick and they would light the end of the wick. And this provided the illumination that they used throughout their working day. I had personally tried one of these lights, and in a pitch black room to simulate a coal mine, this light gives off as much illumination is a birthday candle. So you can imagine being in a totally dark environment with a light from a birthday candle, having to work 8 hours, 10 hours during a day. The other thing I want to briefly show you is this little brass tag. Okay. All the coal miners were issued a number, an identification number, and that number was stamped on these brass tags. The miner had a number of these in his pocket. The brass tags served two purposes. One, when the miner entered the mine, he would take one of his brass tags and put it on a board called a check-in, check-out board. At the end of the day, when a miner finished his work, he came out of the mine, he then removed that brass tag from the board and put it in his pocket. This way, the mine officials knew who was in the mine or how many miners were active at one time. The second thing that this brass tag was used for, miners in the early days were not paid by the hour. They were paid by how much coal they had loaded and mined during a day. So a miner would work all day or more than one day, and he would take the coal, load it into a mining car. When the car was filled, he would then take his brass tag with his number and he would attach it to the side of the mine car. Horses or mules would then bring the mine car out of the mine and it would go to a weigh station. The first thing that the weighman would do would take the brass tag off of the car and jot it down in his book. This would identify the particular miner. Then the weighman would weigh the amount of coal in that car and make note of that in his book. So that's how miners were given credit for the amount of coal that they mined, and that's how they were paid. Coal mining industry was very important here in Peters Township, and there were a number of mines primarily along the Peters Creek watershed. We have a map showing the various mines throughout southwestern Pennsylvania, and I like to just talk a little bit about the mines here locally. You can say that the mines were divided into two distinct groups. One group was the small family-operated coal mine. This was a mine that they just dug into the hillside, into the coal seam. They extracted the coal for their own personal use, for heating homes or for heating their neighbor's home. This kind of a mine was called a dog hole mine, and it typically employed less than 15 people. One of the fascinating aspects I was able to research involving the small family-operated mine or the dog hole mine was that probably one of the earliest family mines here in Peters Township actually was involved with the Wright family here at this location. Approximately 200 yards behind the Wright Museum, there was an outcropping of coal. Enoch Wright discovered this and dug into the coal seam and used the coal to heat the house here in the winter. And as you see, as you go through the house, each room has its own fireplace. So the coal was used to heat in the winter. The second type of mine was the large company-owned mines. And these were mines that employed anywhere from 50 to 70 to 100 or more miners for their operation. Three of these mines were the Anderson mine, the Eclipse mine, and the Nottingham mine here locally. There were others we could talk about when you come and visit our facility. One of the more familiar aspects of coal mining, and the one that I think is particularly of interest, deals with coal mining superstitions. A little bit of a background. Most of the miners in this area in the late 1890s, early 1900s were immigrants. They came from foreign countries. With them, they had their own beliefs and superstitions. Also, if you would think of the mine environment, we have a totally pitch black working environment and flickering lights and some shadows. You also have the sound of maybe dripping water or a rock falling on occasion. So it was very conducive atmosphere for mine superstitions. One of the superstitions that was brought here deals with Tommy knockers. This was a superstition that came from Cornish miners overseas. When they came in the United States, they carried that superstition with them, started in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, and then came westward to our area. Tommy knocker is a little mischievous gremlin. And basically, he had two aspects. One was that if the miner left any of his tools laying around, the little Tommy knocker would sneak up, grab the tools, and hide them so the miner could not find them. Also, the miners wanted to keep the Tommy knockers on good behavior, so every now and again they'd leave a bit of food for the Tommy knockers. The other side of the story is that if there was going to be a roof fall or a mine disaster, a Tommy knocker would knock on the roof support timbers or the mine itself. And if a miner heard these knockings, he would say, hey, the Tommy knockers are telling us to get out of the area. So that's one of a number of really interesting mining superstitions. One more I'll share with you. The rest of them, you're going to have to come here to the museum so we can talk about it. The other superstition, coal miners, it was bad luck for a coal miner to whistle in a coal mine. One of the aspects of the Historical Society, beside preserving local history for future generations, is to try to educate young people as to local history. One of the displays we have here in the coal mining room is a touch activity that the children can touch, and we have items, for example, of fossils. A lot of children have never seen what a fossil looks like. Also, there are two types of coal in Pennsylvania. In the eastern part of Pennsylvania is called anthracite coal. It's a very hard, shiny coal, but it burns clean. It does not give off any smoke or soot. The other coal, which is very common in our area, involves bituminous coal. This coal is very dirty when it burns. It gives off a lot of smoke, it gives off a lot of soot. But this is the type of coal that is found here in Western Pennsylvania. All right, well, I'm concluding my abbreviated tour of the Williams Bitch Jenkins Memorial Coal Mining Room. I hope you have found it interesting. We have a lot of coal mining artifacts on display, including various types of mining lamps, various types of mine hats, and a number of other different artifacts. I hope you would stop in, take a look at these, and I would particularly enjoy talking with you about mining superstitions and possibly the activity that your father or grandfather did. We have a lot of visitors who come through and say they had a father that worked in a coal mine or a grandfather that worked in a coal mine. And we sit down and we share stories, which is fun. For those of you who are interested in coming to the Wright House Museum and seeing this coal mining room, you can go to our website. It's www.Peters Creek Historical Society, that's all one word, .org. And in it, it talks about the house, the different rooms, and especially when we have scheduled open house tours. Typically, these tours run from May through September. However, we do give tours at other times of the year. These are personalized tours. So if you're interested and it is after September, please call myself at 724-348-6406, and I'd love to arrange a personal tour for you to come in. Thank you.